Okay, it's time now. I will start the presentation for today. Let's introduce myself. My name is Ron Havenaar. I'm living in the south of the Netherlands, around Eindhoven. Well, it's a little bit cold today. I think it will be not more than 3 or 4 degrees Celsius. Yeah, I have my practice here since 13 to 15 years again. And I help a lot of people. And since 5 or 6 years, I help also with the Spooky equipment. Yeah, we'll see a lot of the Spooky this evening, and we'll talk about fungi. Yeah, fungi are important. In biology, they say it's a third kingdom. We'll see in this presentation the biological characteristics and what is the reason that fungal infections are on the rise. So that makes us a little bit alert for something that is happening in the environment. Well, it's not only bad things about fungi, it's also an element of the environment that is very positive, it's good, but there are some fungi that are pathological. Okay, someone raised his hand. Is there a question? Can you unmute your microphone if you want to ask a question? Okay, no, maybe later at the end of the session. Yeah, what I will show you is a little bit of information in a movie. It's a 3-minute movie, and that will introduce to you the introduction of the fungi. Let's take a look. It's only a short film. So this was a short introduction about fungi. Well, it is the third kingdom because we'll see in biology there are mostly common 5 counted kingdoms. It is the kingdom of the protists, the protozoa is number 1. The one-cell eukaryota, the bacteria, that's kingdom number 2. Kingdom number 3 is the fungi, and that contains mushrooms, yeasts, and molds. Kingdom number 4 is the kingdom of the plants, and kingdom number 5 it is the kingdom of the animals, including man. Yeah, so the third kingdom is always much in the ignoration because we overlooked the fungi kingdom. And we'll see in this presentation that it is not okay to overlook a kingdom like that because it is the top supporting life kingdom that supports our life in daily practice. We'll see that there were several classifications in the kingdoms. If you take a look at Wikipedia about biological kingdom classifications, you will see that in history they started only with 2 kingdoms, namely the plants and the animalia, the animals. Yeah, but later on they discovered that the difference between all those different forms of life was so great that they have to introduce more than 2 kingdoms, namely 5 kingdoms. And among those 5 kingdoms is the fungi. Yeah, even today some propose that even it is better to say that there are 6 or 7 or 8 kingdoms or more. Yeah, that's because it is a very difficult problem in biology to have that classifications, and it illustrates the problems of the evolution theory. Yeah, because the differences between all those organisms is so great that it is unbelievable that they still believe in evolution. At least that is my opinion. Fungi are important because the fungi was the pioneer organism that made the earth in the very young history fertile. Yeah, because fungi, they drill into the rocks. They have some roots, we call that roots mycelia, and the pressure inside the mycelia is so large that it is the pressure of maybe 10 to 20 times the pressure in car tires. So it could be easily 20 to 30 atmosphere inside that mycelia. And if the mycelia grow into the pores of the rocks, they can easily break the rocks. And for that property, the fungi were very important in the beginning of the history of the earth to make fertile soil. And later on, when the fertile soil was working and even plants were growing on the crust of the earth, well, the fungi had another very advantage symbiosis because they feed the plants. So the plants, they can feed on, let's say, minerals and let's say oxygen they use from the air, the nitrogen from the earth. Yeah, but the fungi, they feed themselves from plants and they harvest maybe the proteins, yeah, and they convert that to fertile elements that plants can use. We'll see that plants will also getting the help of the protection against diseases, but even the fungi can eat the trees. Yeah, but not before they fall down after the death of the trees. It's a good thing that the fungi help us to digest that dead trees. Otherwise, the earth would be covered in dead trees. So it will hold also the soil together, and it is a very important function of the fungi to break down organic matter. Yeah, so if dead animals spoil the earth, or the animals also eat from carcasses, and then after the birds, then come the insects. When the insects are ready, then come the bacteria. Yeah, and the last of the list is then the fungi, that they can eat anything that was left by all the other converting organisms. Yeah, so there is a pest control also by fungi, because they can eat also things that are bad. Yeah, so without the fungal growth in the plant systems, yeah, 90 to 80% of the trees and the grasses would not live. Yeah, so it is a very essential part of the environment that the fungi is still there. Yeah, so fungi are everywhere. So we can see that there are mushrooms. That is the fruit function of the fungi. Yeah, but they can decompose all the things that were dying. But you can see also in your bathroom that there is a maybe grow of gray or green molds, and that can harm you. Yeah, there are maybe some fungal cells on your skin. They all are always there, between the toes or maybe on your backside. Well, they estimate that there are 3.8 million of species of fungi, and the majority of all those fungi are absolutely unknown. There's only a description of 100,000 species of those fungi in the literature, so that means that the kingdom of fungi is nearly unknown. And from that 8.3 million of species of those fungi, only 20 to 30 species are possibly a pathogen for humans. And we will concentrate, of course, if we take a look at pathogens, especially to 20 or 30 of those species. And for today, I have a discussion of 3 of those species. What are the mycology terms? So if we take a look at what is a mold is a multicellular fungi. What is a yeast? A yeast is a single cell fungi. And what is a mycosis? That is the term that describes an infection. And that can be or systemic mycosis or opportunistic mycosis. Systemic means maybe it was an infection in your lung, but it reached maybe the blood or maybe the kidneys or something else. So it was in your system. Yeah, and that is of course a bad situation that could have the potential threat of killing you. Well, some immunocompromised patients have opportunistic mycosis, maybe because they have a chemotherapy, or maybe they have use of antibiotics, but we will discuss that. Some of those fungi have a double phase. They can be a yeast, which is a single cell phase, or maybe later on a mold, which is a multicellular phase. So they can be unicellular or multicellular depending on the phase. What will they eat? They eat from decaying organic material, which we call saprobe. So saprobe is a function of the fungi. We'll take a look at the structure of those fungi. They have hyphae, and that are filaments, and together the filaments will form the mycelium. And of course they have a reproduction system, and they do that with the conidia. The conidia are sometimes very, very small, microconidia, and you can call that also spores. And sometimes you have macroconidia, and that are multicellular large conidia. What is a mushroom? Well, that is only a part of the fungi, which is the part that is the fruit body, and that is what we'll see above the earth. So if we eat, let's say, a mushroom, Yeah, you can cut them away and then eat them, because some of those mushrooms can be used as food. Yeah, while the rest of the hyphae or the mycelium will grow under the earth, but the mushroom will grow above the earth. And some fungi have sexual reproduction, some have asexual reproduction, and some fungi have both sexual and asexual forms of reproduction. So what we'll see here is that the conidia will be loosened out of the conidiophore. The conidiophore are filaments that produce the spores, and later on those spores can be in moisture soil, and they germinate and they grow on to new forms of the fungi. Yeah, and under the earth or sub the surface, they call it hypha, and together all those hypha form the mycelium. Yeah, and those mycelia are sometimes dangerous in your body if it grows inside the liver or the kidneys. Well, you see here that sporangium is a form that produces the spores, and those spores are very, very small. Yeah, so those spores could be very small, like smaller than 1 micron. Yeah, and that will help to proliferate all those spores. And I must say that the fungi are the strongest organisms on the earth, because it is the lowest part of the biological system. So if you have here in your garden a fungi, you want to destroy the fungi. Let's say you spoil the soil with diesel oil to destroy the fungi. Well, maybe 50 meters or 500 meters further, they come on above the soil again. So you will never be able to destroy the fungi. It is the most strong element of life forms on the earth. What is important to know that the fungi are on the move. Some will have found that some fungi, even that were living in the tropics, now are living also in Canada. How is that possible? Yeah, some did go with the airplanes on holidays, and they did not know that when they walk on the soil in the tropics and then return home to Canada, then the spores were attached to their shoe soles. Yeah, and when they walk on the soil in Canada, there is the place that the fungus will grow again. Yeah, so even in other countries, we have seen the last few decades that fungi colonized the environment. Yeah, and even in Canada, the Cryptococcus gattii was giving a problem with an outbreak in their area. Yeah, and what could be the cause? Probably was one of the elements is the change in climate. Yeah, so the global warming is one of the elements that will give fungi the opportunity to grow on locations where they did not grow before. So some fungi will proliferate. Only the extreme heat or the extreme cold that can kill the fungi. Yeah, but as today the climates in some countries are some moderate climates, so that is the temperature range that the fungi can live. So the fungal growth is shifting polewards at 7.5 kilometers per year. That means if we wait long enough, even on the North Pole or the South Pole, that the fungi will come. And it is important to know that fungi destroy 2/3 of all crop on the yearly harvest. So that's important to know. So a lot of things are happening in the environment, and you see here in this picture that even in the mice, the corn, some fungi will destroy the harvest. Also on animals, they say here that in the last 30 years, a fungus did kill more than 200 different species of frogs. Yeah, and that's important that even frogs were destroyed from the environment just because the climate gave opportunity to other fungi that were not living in that area before. So things are changing on the earth very quickly today. One of the other causes that maybe also human will have problems with fungi, maybe the CDC, which is American company that invests a lot of effort to produce information for pathogens. It's a very important website in the US, comparable with the RIVM in the Netherlands. And they say that the chemical industry is also giving them opportunities for fungi. Why is that? Because the fungi are also becoming resistant against all those chemicals. And that is important to know that even when we have some diseases already with viruses like the human immunovirus for AIDS, that some immune systems will be weaker, and then fungi have more opportunity. Maybe the chemotherapy, immunosuppressive therapy, overuse of antibiotics, and fungicides in agriculture. All those chemicals, they had some help in suppressing the influence of fungi, but maybe the negative effect is that the fungi became stronger, like the resistance that did grow among the bacteria because of an overuse of antibiotics. So an overuse of fungicides in the agriculture is also not helping us on the long term. So that means that we have to redo our studies. A new interest is coming up on the topic of fungi. Yeah, so it is important to know that it started since 1960 that there was a new interest in the study of fungi. Yeah, and that is very important because the fungi, as we saw that in the presentation, fungi will help to sustain life, yeah, instead of destroying life. But of course, it is a two-side effect. We can be killed by a fungi and we can live because of a fungi. So fungi are important also for us. It will help us to make bread. It will help us to make wine, beer, and cheese. We can eat some mushroom types like truffle or morel, and even truffle are very expensive because they will be seen as a delicacy. And in the biochemistry, they make an extensive use of yeast cells because the yeast cell can produce chemicals that were very expensive if the chemicals must be produced by chemical methods. So it is cheaper to be produced by the function of yeast cells. Yeah, is it a real threat to our health? Yes, sometimes that happens. Well, you see here that 1.5 million people will be killed every year worldwide. And some fungi did reach the heart, the blood, the brain, or the bones, or other internal organs. That means that fungi can be really a threat to your body. Yeah, and especially because some fungi will be found in parts of the world where they were relatively new. Yeah, and even in hospital patients, life-threatening infections can become difficult to treat. I have to stop my telephone, sorry. Okay, there I am again. So even in hospital patients, some fungi can kill people. Yeah, because some were misdiagnosed and they did not think about fungi. Well, fungi diseases are on the rise, and of course, if you take a look at this website, nci.com, you will find that even scientists and physicians are worrying about the exploration of the fungi in our environment, and they can easily become a problem for our health. In this picture, you'll see a picture of the Candida, which is one of the important diseases maybe on the saliva. The importance of fungi is making us sometimes a problem. Sometimes we'll use it for specific products. So we can make, let's say, an important, is somebody? Do I have a problem with my audio?
Nee, ik kan alles goed horen, Ron.
Okay. So it is sometimes a challenge because fungi can make products that are very good and they are renewable. So it will make us sometimes independent of fossil products. Yeah, maybe we can recycle our waste and reform them again to ingredients. And some fungi will help us because our digestion is being supported by some fungi. Yeah, and sometimes the fungi can be used to make the crop maybe more fertile. Yeah, so even they can sometimes cause a problem, but the good thing about fungi is that they can make also an improvement in the production of food. So a few facts about the fungi. Fungi are a kingdom of their own. That's what we saw already. One of the things is that is important. That they have chitine in their cell wall. What is chitine? Chitine is a kind of resisting strong material that is the same as the skeletons of the insects. Yeah, so they are being able to break down plastics. They make wine, beer, cheeses. Yeah, and even some species can be consumed as foods. Let's say the champignon or maybe the truffles. And even sometimes they can use fungi in the industry for producing synthetic rubbers, plastic parts, etc. Some fungi are also hallucinogenic, which means that sometimes they produce chemicals that have the function of a drug. Yeah, and also fungi can make our waste into bioethanol, which is maybe then a good thing for producing like our fuel. Yeah, so they can be replacing very good things in the plastic industry or for building materials. One of the fungi is penicillium. Penicillium is something, a fungi that lives in the environment, but it can be used for food and drug production, but is also sometimes a dangerous form of fungi. Yeah, so one of the things that we know is that penicilline was a toxin that was harvested by penicillium. So penicillium is the fungi, and this person, Dr. Fleming, in 1928 discovered that when he was growing his fungi in petri discs in his lab, yeah, but he did that with open window. And by coincidence, he discovered that when he did grow bacteria in one of his plates, in one of the plates, the bacteria did not grow. What did happen? Alexander Fleming, he discovered that there was a fungus growing inside that plate that destroyed the bacteria. Yeah, the toxin was called penicillin. Yeah, and penicillin was then discovered as being a very good medicine to suppress bacteria. So at that time, the penicillin was helping a lot of persons not to have suffered from tuberculosis, by example. Yeah, so it was just a miracle that he, by coincidence, discovered the positive functionality of fungi. Yeah, but there are also threats in our body that can have potential bad systemic diseases. It could be in our blood. Let's say one of them is mucor. Mucor is very important. Yeah, so I'll see here the mucor. This is the mucor. Some persons will have bad circulation, or maybe deviations of the clotting functionality of the thrombocytes, and that could be caused by the mucor. Yeah, other blood fungi infections are Candida or Histoplasma or Cryptococcus neoformans. I had a call from someone that was suffering from a very strong headache. Yeah, and I suggested to do a test on Cryptococcus neoformans. Yeah, because also that Cryptococcus is able to live in the brain. So, yeah, maybe there is infection in the skin, and then also probably on the hairs, maybe on the nails. Most of the nails are infected with epidermophyton or trichophyton, and especially for women, sometimes in the genital tract, Candida albicans. Yeah, I had a patient a few weeks ago, and he had a very bad infection on his skin with trichophyton rubrum. He was in the hospital, and the hospital sent him away because they did not find anything wrong with him, but he had a complaint after doing some gardening work. He had to go to an old lady and to remove a few old trees. So he had a motor saw and he cut the trees, and after doing that kind of work, his body totally went red and pustulous on his legs and very itchy. So he found a problem and went to the hospital, but they did not found anything wrong. They said, oh, it is an eczema. Yeah, but when I took a look with my Beacon machine, I found Trichophyton rubrum. So after one session on the Spooky plasma, I triggered the Trichophyton rubrum with the software, and after 1.5 hours he said the itch is gone, and 4 weeks later he said it is nearly gone. So you can do very good things with your Spooky plasma. Yeah, and on the lungs, very famous is Aspergillus. Yeah, Aspergillus here. On the lungs, I had some boy who had an infection of Aspergillus in his lungs. Yeah, he had a complaint, well, I have always back pain, and when I tested him, it was his lungs. and the pain from his lungs came out on his backside. Well, what is sometimes in the throat, Candida albicans, and maybe in the urine can also be Candida albicans. So a lot of different fungi infections could happen in humans and could cause some problems. Even maybe if you don't look very well, they could be killed by a fungus. One of my favorite television series is Monsters Inside Me. It is normally on Discovery Channel or something like that. And I am following always Monsters Inside Me, because you will see sometimes it is a worm, sometimes it is a bacteria, and even sometimes it is a fungi. Yeah, and that will help to understand that fungi can be a threat for our health. There's a list of possible threats by fungi. Yeah, it's Aspergillus, which is important, Candida, Cryptococcidioides, Cryptococcus, Epidermophytum, and Mucor and Penicillium. A lot of fungi can be dangerous, yeah, and especially when they have the opportunity to grow inside the body. Normally this will not happen. If we have a good immune system that is in balance, the fungi will not be a real threat. Yeah, but if we have some weaknesses in our immune system, and I'm therefore, for that reason, a little bit of worried about corona, because the corona will infect mostly our T cells and B lymphocytes. So that can weaken our immune system. So other bacteria and maybe also fungi will have the opportunity to penetrate in the body because of weaknesses of the immune system. What we'll discuss in more detail is here Aspergillus, Candida, and Epidermophyton. Yeah, so Aspergillus is a large family of fungi. So Aspergillus fumigatus, Aspergillus flavus, Aspergillus niger, of Aspergillus felis. There are some famous infections of those Aspergillus variations. The guy that I talked about you was 28 years old, in normal good health, but back pain between his shoulder blades. Yeah, and he was suffering from Aspergillus fumigatus. I could test that with my Bicor machine. Yeah, so Aspergillus is here in this picture shown. It could be a dark or blue or green fungus. Yeah, but Aspergillus fumigatus is one of the variations, one of the subspecies of Aspergillus that it is coming up in our environment lately. Yeah, so they use also Aspergillus niger in biotechnology. So in the industry, they use especially Aspergillus niger because they can make citric acid with this Aspergillus niger. Yeah, so Aspergillus niger is a very easy product that helps to produce those citric acids, and it can be used as an antioxidant or an acid regulator. Yeah, and maybe even as what they call aroma, as a tasteful flavor in food or beverages. Yeah, so they make a lot of use of the Aspergillus niger in the biotechnology, and even some genetic manipulation is done, and then even for pharmaceutical products, or maybe a medicine, or maybe cosmetic products that will produce the substance that they need with a modified Aspergillus fungus. That brings us also to the next. If we can produce positive effects or maybe positive products by the hand of Aspergillus, well, could that be then a threat? Well, I've seen that some persons are allergic for something common like orange juice. Why can some persons be allergic to orange juice? Because I think that you will not peel the orange before making the juice. So in the orange juice factories, the complete oranges, inclusive the surrounding products, zeg maar the not being peeled off, they put everything in a blender, and all those pulp, all those substances that come together with the grinded oranges, they will be mixed with aspergillus. And the aspergillus fungus will digest the cells that were undigestible in our intestines. So later on, they kill, of course, the aspergillus by heating up the orange juice. Yeah, so that there is no aspergillus anymore in the orange juice. But what is then the reason that they can be allergic to orange juice? Well, it is because the toxins that the aspergillus did produce. So sometimes they remove the toxins, but not all. Yeah, so that is the reason why some could be allergic, and also maybe for medicine. So if, let's say, a product of medication is produced by a fungus, the side effects become of the toxic products that the fungus did produce. Yeah, so the thing that we are looking for is a medicine, but some side effects could exist because there are a lot of halfway products produced by a fungus that are the cause of the side effects. And if we are infected with aspergillus, we could easily be infected by our lungs, our sinuses in the front head, can cause running nose or headaches. Yeah, even sometimes it can produce a fungus ball that is a lookalike of a tumor. We can have coughing, maybe together with the coughing comes up some blood. Maybe we have weight loss, some fatigue, yeah, and even some shortness of breath. Yeah, all those symptoms are related to maybe a virus, maybe a bacteria, or maybe a fungus, but it could be aspergillus. It's one of the options that you should have then in your mind as one of the possible causes of shortness of breath. So Aspergillus fumigatus is one of the common Aspergillus species, and one of my patients, they have some diseases related to the lungs. One of the medical treatments is the itraconazole, or the amphotericin B. The reason that I mention here those medicines, because with our Spooky machines, we can emulate the frequencies of the medicine. I will show that later on when I do the demo. Yeah, if you have the molecular weight of the medicine, you can easily try to simulate the effects of the antifungus treatment with amphotericin B. And that's one of the things that I did with the plasma Spooky. Yeah, if I had someone with the Trichophyton rubrum, I gave him the long lamp between his calves and his lower part of the legs, and then I did start Aspergillus fumigatus, Aspergillus niger, and amphotericin B in the cycle of the treatment, and that was a really good trick. Aspergillus niger is also one of the other subspecies of Aspergillus. It is called black mold, and it grows always on decaying material like bread or food, yeah, or grapes, peanuts, whatever. Yeah, even peanuts are important. I think that on peanuts, some products that are maybe a little bit too old of the peanuts can introduce the Aspergillus infections. Yeah, and some of those Aspergillus fungi produce toxins that are very, very strong. Aflatoxine is one of the top strong nerve toxins that can be produced by fungi. Maybe you heard the story about the curse of the pharaohs. When in the 1920s Howard Carter opened the tomb of Tutankhamun, they discovered that a lot of persons in the team of the opening of the grave, they were dying from lung diseases, and some did start the story, yeah, that was the curse of the pharaoh, but in fact it was an infection of Aspergillus in the lungs. Yeah, here in this case you can see that if they make a Röntgen picture, you can see that easily on Wikipedia, that you see a round form in the lungs, and that a round form can be a tumor, of course, but it can also be a fungus ball. Yeah, and that is, of course, nearly the same as a mycobacterium. So Mycobacterium tuberculosis can cause the same. Yeah, Aspergillus niger can cause the same, and the tumor can cause the same. Yeah, so the picture itself will not discriminate between the three options, but it has a lookalike. So it could be a misdiagnosed fungal infection if you are not very alert. And here you can see that even in the medical journals, you can sometimes find that tuberculosis can have co-infections with Aspergillus fumigatus, Aspergillus flavus, or Aspergillus niger. Yeah, and so tuberculosis could show up maybe later on when the tuberculosis is treated with the antibiotics. Then of course the fungus will not be treated, and then the body is not healed. Yeah, but Aspergillus and tuberculosis can go together, and we'll take a look why that could be possible. Yeah, so they find also sometimes in patients with lung cancer, in the exhale breath Aspergillus versions. Yeah, here then Aspergillus and lung cancer can also go together. Well, that is one of the things that was the interest of Mr. Enderlein, and that is what I always discuss in the microbiology classes for dark field microscopy, that Enderlein did discover that Aspergillus niger and Mycobacterium tuberculosis belong together in a cycle. And his conclusion was that maybe the fungus was an infection inside the Mycobacterium tuberculosis. Yeah, I will try to explain that. So let's say if I have here a rod-shaped bacteria, and then the bacteria is infected. So this is the rod-shaped bacteria, which is the Mycobacterium tuberculosis. Yeah, but inside, yeah, can be the spores of Aspergillus niger. Well, they said in history, and that was interesting, because if you have a funnel, so whoa. So there is a filter, and that has pores. Let's say the pores are having a size of 0.2 micrometer. Well, if you have here a filtered solution, yeah, then the bacteria well, the size of bacteria tuberculosis, that could be easily like 5 micron. So the mycobacterium will not pass the filter, because the Mycobacterium tuberculosis is too large to pass the filter. Yeah, and then what passes the filter here at this side is the filterable particle. The filterable particle is then one of the options to discriminate, because in the 1920s they did not see the difference between a virus of spores of fungus, of maybe the filterable particles of bacteria. Yeah, all those three could be filterable particles, and that is what I discussed also in the dark field microscopy course. Filterable particles could be a fungus, a virus, or maybe bacteria. So in those days, it was nearly impossible to discriminate between a virus, a spore, or a bacteria, because they had nothing as a clue about DNA. Yeah, so the filterable particles could be living inside the mycobacterium, and if the bacteria is dead, then the filterable particle will evade from the dead bacteria and then have another infection. So if you kill the infection of the bacteria, yeah, you start to infect with a fungus. Yeah, and that is sometimes also the reason that cancer will develop, because in 1920 Otto Warburg also said that cancer is something like a fungus, because the cancer cells will have the sugar cycle only. Yeah, they are only able to digest sugars, and that is the relation between cancer and fungi. Yeah, so the metabolism of cancer cells and fungi have a lookalike. Yeah, and maybe he was right. And then Aspergillus niger, Mycobacterium tuberculosis, and lung cancer could be the effects of the same phenomena. Here you can see candidiasis. Well, this is not a picture of my tongue, but I had the same tongue after when I had a problem with the dentist. He had to drill a tooth, and when I wake up the next morning, I had a very swollen cheek. So I ran to the dentist, and I said to him, well, this swollen cheek must be treated probably with an antibiotic. So he gave me doxycycline, and there was a series of 5 pills for 5 days. So I have to swallow doxycycline for 5 days, and after 5 days I said to myself, oh, that was very good, because the infection was absolutely gone after 2 days. It did help grateful, and I thought to myself, I don't have any side effects. But when I got out of bed on the 6th day, I had the idea that everything tasted salty. Even sugar tasted salty. And I had electric shocks on my tongue. And then I opened my mouth before the mirror and I saw a swollen tongue covered with a white layer. And then I thought to myself, well, I think I must test myself on Candida albicans. And it was really true. Yeah, so Candida albicans is one of the fungal infections caused by the Candida, and it can live in the mouth, in the throat, sometimes for ladies in the vagina, yeah, or if they have a relationship, it could be in fact also to the husband. And sometimes, in the majority of adults, even in the normal intestinal tract, you can test in 40 to 60% of the cases that the intestinal tract is also infected with Candida, but without any problem. So Candida itself is not always causing a lot of trouble, yeah, but it can harm some persons, because if the immune system is too weak, Candida albicans can also invade other organs and then cause a lot of problems there. So especially antibiotics like doxycycline is one of the side effects that can have the destroying of the bacterial flora in your mouth. And if the bacterial flora in your mouth is gone, then the Candida can have an opportunity. It's the same for chemotherapy. So sometimes Candida can be caused by chemo. So dentist problems, even sometimes I had someone that says, do you know anything about fungus in my mouth, how to heal it? I asked him, do you eat apples with the skin? Yes, he said. Yes, but I wash them. Yeah, I said to him, well, take a look, do a test, and if you eat apples, just peel them before eating it. 2 weeks later, he said, my white spots in the mouth are absolutely gone. So sometimes the fruits are sprayed with pesticides, and that gives Candida the opportunity, because it destroys sometimes the flora, the bacterial flora in the mouth. And I use also nystatin, clotrimazole or fluconazole if I do any treatment in bioresonance. That will really help to suppress the Candida. So for some ladies, they have Candida infections in the vagina. Maybe this is caused also by contraceptives, hormone cycles, maybe also due to diabetes, or maybe the immune system was weakened by viruses, or maybe steroid products, yeah, like prednisone or cortisone or something like that. Yeah, so some ladies have Candida and they have an abnormal discharge from the vagina. Maybe it goes together with pain for intercourse or urinating. Yeah, dermatophyton. Dermatophyton is a skin infection. Yeah, so dermatophyton can be Microsporum canis or Trichophyton rubrum. So I discussed the person for Trichophyton rubrum because he has a very, very bad skin infection. And the doctor did say, oh, it's only eczema. Yeah, but I could test it, that it was Trichophyton in fact. Yeah, luckily it is a superficial infection. Yeah, and it was treated very easily. Even sometime on the skin. Dermatophyton could live on skin or on nails. Yeah, some persons will call it a ringworm, while it is not really a worm. It is a skin mycosis. Yeah, folliculitis is an infection of the roots of the hair, and even sometimes it is caused by medications. Yeah, you can treat also skin mycosis with terbinafine or itraconazole or ketoconazole, and that will help to overcome skin infections with fungi. What is very interesting, you take a look on YouTube and you can try hydrogen peroxide 3%, and if you drip that on the nails, it will cause the dead nail cells to go off like a foamy development. It will not hurt, although I must say that you must protect your skin against the peroxide, but I did not feel anything. I had no pain. Yeah, so the only thing that what was happening that the skin bed was absolutely clean. Yeah, so the dead cells from the nail, even in the nail bed, were destroyed. So you wash it away after 10 minutes, and then the nail bed is absolutely clean. And then you put a Vicks VapoRub, which is a cream with a menthol oil, and that will help to protect us against reinfection. So Vicks VapoRub will help in between the periods that you try the peroxide. Yeah, so if you do hydrogen peroxide once a week, and in between you can use the Vicks VapoRub to protect yourself from reinfection. What will help to do is testing before treatment. Yeah, tomorrow another spooky session will start tomorrow, and he will talk about the spooky feedback scans, which is important, of course, because the feedback scans will help us to do a run of effective frequencies. What I'll do is, in my practice, I'll do a test with my Bicom machine and with electroacupuncture. So I have a testing method. I test on acupuncture points, and I can see the effect of a signal. So if I put a fungus signal in the Bicom, yeah, then I can see the effect on the acupuncture points. Maybe on the lung, maybe on the intestine, or maybe on the urine bladder points, which are related to the genital area as well. Or what I can do is do a test with my Hunter machine from SSCH, the Hunter Metapathia. And what's also very interesting is the live blood analysis with my dark field microscopy. Yeah, what can I do with treatment? Treatment I will do with Spooky Plasma or Spooky Scalar, or you can run the feedback scan. So the results of the feedback scan, so you can do a feedback scan every week. You will see the changes over time, and then the frequencies that were effective last week are no longer effective in the new week. So you treated yourself, especially on the frequencies that were being absorbed by the body. Yeah, and what you will see in the Spooky software is that many, I think nearly all the important fungi are included in the database. So you have a lot of opportunities to treat yourself with the Spooky. So this will be done tomorrow. There's also available a biofeedback training on spooky2videos.com. If you go to that website, you can click on all those videos that are made before. Yeah, and tomorrow we'll start a new session. This is my dark field microscopy. You can see here in this slide that there was someone coming to me with a diagnosis from the hospital. The hospital said, well, your liver is damaged. So he has sky-high liver values in the blood. So the doctor said, well, your liver is nearly damaged, nearly gone. So you have to have a transplantation. When I got this patient, he was 28 years old, and he was complaining about the diagnosis. He said, yeah, I'm 28 years old. If I have a transplant in this year, I will swallow anti-immune products for the rest of my life to overcome the damaging of the new liver by my immune system. Can you do a test for me? Yes. I first checked his blood on the microscope, and you can see here the snow in the picture is the bile in the blood. You can see that there is a lot of fat in the blood. So the hospital was right. These liver values were sky high. But when I tested with electroacupuncture, I tested the liver positive for nearly normal. But I said to him, your gallbladder is having the problem. So my advice is go to another hospital and do a second opinion. The other second opinion said, okay, your liver is okay, but your gallbladder is having a problem. Your gallbladder is 100% blocked. So if the gallbladder is blocked, then the liver must do pressure on that bile and put it in the blood vessels. And his treatment was dottering of the gallbladder duct. So after 1 day of hospitalization, he was back home again and was very happy that still his liver was okay until now. And that was 4 or 5 years ago. So that was the help of the dark field microscopy. So what you can do with Spooky is do Spooky treatment with the Spooky remote. And I must say that I'm very impressed with the remote. The remote is really working. I thought to myself when I saw the logo of Spooky2 with the ghost-like picture, I thought to myself, well, or it is a children's toy, or it is something spiritistic. But when I took a look at the explanation, I saw that the word spooky was related to a discussion of Einstein about the quantum mechanics. So nothing is really to do with ghosts or spirituality. And I must say that the majority of Spooky generators, I run this one with old laptops, and some people say to me, hey Ron, I have an old laptop, it's so slow to me, I cannot use it for normal Windows production. Can you do anything with that old laptop? And I always say, thank you very much, I can do a lot with old laptops, because I run only Spooky2 databases on that old laptop. So simply put a nail inside the remote. You can do anything in the remote, like a blood sample, or maybe a hair sample, or maybe a nail sample. So you clip a nail and put it in the remote. And I must say that I was very impressed while starting the first really remote test. So there was a lady that was ill, and I was asked to treat her remotely, and I did not really believe that it was possible. So I said to her, well, send your nails with the normal post mail. And a week later, the nail was arriving in my home. I put it in the remote and started treating it in the morning at 9 o'clock. And something like 10 o'clock in the evening, I sent her a WhatsApp. I just started to treat you this morning. And her answer was, "Oh yes, I had already sensations, so I said to my husband, he probably started today to treat me with his Spooky." Yeah, but the amazing thing was, she was far, far away. I was in Holland and she was in Tel Aviv, in Israel. So for me, that was the ultimate test. That is what Einstein said. If the quantum entanglement is really true, then it is a spooky action on the distance, yeah, independent of the distance, because there's no signal running from A to B, from me to her. Yeah, it is a relationship between two things that become one. They come from the same source, and then they will be treated. So at the same time, when you treat the nail, you treat also the patient. Strange. I don't know why. I'm studying in quantum mechanics, of course, but I must say that I'm very impressed by the effect of the remote. Yeah, even you can run 24/7 a specific treatment. Yeah, and you can go on your bike and you're still treated. So you simply select appropriate programs. What I did find is that the H-bomb waveform is very effective also on the fungi. I will demonstrate it in a few minutes. If you have very severe cases, I run Spooky plasma. So there is a long tube, there is a phanotron bulb tube, and you can run any frequency like Rife frequencies, Hulda-Clark frequencies, or molecular weight frequency programs. I will demonstrate that also. And that will give extra power to any kind of treatment. I was very impressed with the effect of my Spooky plasma. For chronic conditions, I today use nearly always the Spooky scalar. I did do a test with the Spooky scalar. My old father-in-law is 85 years old. He was in hospital last year, and he had to remove the gallbladder. Was nearly dead because his gallbladder was already destroyed before he entered the hospital. So he had a belly infection as well. So he was very, very bad and very, very weak when he came home. In the hospital, he had a double hospital infection, Klebsiella in the lung, and what was in his urine bladder, I think it was streptococci. So he had Klebsiella and streptococci in his body when coming home from the hospital. Yeah, I treated him with frequency programs for lung infections, for urine bladder infections, but he has also a very strong problem with dementia. And I thought to myself, well, if I do him a treatment for the streptococci and Klebsiella, maybe I can also run a program for dementia. So the hospital tested him. He had vascular dementia. It was not Alzheimer, but it was a problem with his blood vessels in the head. And I must say that I'm impressed with the effects of the treatment, because he knows names again. Sometimes he has very clear mind. He's coming up. It is not completely gone, but I must say that even the nurses that visit him every day are impressed with the results. So I put him on the couch, let him sit between the antennas, and then I run the stimulation with the Spooky scalar. What I always do also, if I treat a patient, I put a glass of water on the transmitter, especially when he has digestion problems, and I make him drink the water afterwards. Yeah, you can sit then between the antennas, run a program, yeah, and the same program together with the information from the patient is uploaded on the water. And then he can drink the water afterwards. Yeah, or maybe a very, very small bottle of alcohol. So some even bring a very small bottle of vodka. You can put the small bottle of vodka on the transmitter, and when they go home, they take away with that program. And the rest of the vodka I drink myself without the program. I have to offer you a discount at Spooky Mall. If you type Spooky21, Spooky2, and you fill that in your ordering, you get a 5% discount on all the things that you order from Spooky Mall. Yeah, so 2021 Spooky2 is the code word for discount offer. So please make a note. 2021 Spooky2 is a valid discount offer until February 15 next month. Okay, so let's start the live demo of Spooky2 software. Yeah, and that is what I try to do for the presentation. So I close the presentation now. And I step over to the demonstration. So the demonstration here is that you need to have the information about what do you want to start. Let's say if you want to have a functional treatment against Candida or something like that, you can do it on the remote, you can do it on the Spooky Plasma or the Spooky Scaler. So by example, if you go to Spooky Scaler, you start with shell empty presets. Click. Then you start with Scaler. Click. And then Spooky Scaler General. Click. Yeah, and then you'll see that the settings page did change. Yeah, so the settings page is no longer needed, except then maybe for a few settings. So that is important. The presets page was especially made because some students will find the settings page too much. It's too complex. So for that reason, they make a quick setup. So if you need to do the right way, just click Spooky Scaler General as a preset, and then you click on Programs. Yeah, and then maybe you type then the name Candida. And then you'll see that there is a lot of information on the Candida search. So you run through all those names. Yeah, so it is containing a lot of information, and that sometimes is too much. Yeah, so I select minus, then KHZ, because KHZ and Hulda Clark are the two sectors in the database that was in my practice a selection of the most effective treatments. Yeah, because Hulda Clark did make a very thorough test on all the pathogens, and she listed the frequencies that was responsive on that pathogens. So I always do unselect all and then select only KHZ. And KHZ means kilohertz, and that was the higher frequency list of Hulda Clark. And HC is of course Hulda Clark. So you can double click candidiasis. Yeah, and if you do not anything extra, you can click here on control and then start right away with your generator. Yeah, first you click on override, of course, and then it will be listed what you do there. And then you can click on start. Okay, if you do something extras, yeah, I click also on molecular weight. What is the reason for that? Because MW, it says here with the asterisk, emulate substances. Yeah, why is that? Because in the system tab, you will find here frequency conversions. At the lower right side, you find there molecular weight to Hertz. Yeah, and that is the formula. Yeah, and that is the quantum mechanics formula based on the quantum mechanics to convert a specific molecular weight or atom weight to a specific frequency. So you can emulate or do something like simulation. So you click here on, let's say, amphotericine B, which I listed already in the slides. Yeah. So amphotericine B, maybe a few times extra. So it says 3 minutes. So if you double click 3 times, you have 9 minutes of amphotericine B, which is a very effective anti-fungicide, an anti-fungus medicine. Yeah, so a lot of things that you see here are all suppressing medicines for fungi. So if you take a look on a specific fungus here, you can include here in the settings, in control, simply click override, and then you see it here at the lower section that amphotericine B is included in the treatment. For some reasons, I find it practical to include in the settings harmonic wobble. Yeah, in the settings, I click on harmonic wobble and then 0.02% feathering. That means that it will not be fixed to a single frequency, but it will move a little bit to left, a little bit to right. And that will help because the factory or the laboratory sample is not always the same as what is the infection inside your body. Yeah, so you make a little bit of deviation of the standard frequency to overcome. And then you again click override and then click start. And then wait for a few seconds to load the waveform. Yep, and then he clicked. I could here click on my generator. And you can here see the frequency. It will run on a specific frequency, but it will deviate the frequency a little bit to left, a little bit to right. And that will overcome a few problems. One of the things is that the body could be getting tired from a single frequency that runs for 3 minutes. That's also the same on my BICOM machine. If I do treatment with the BICOM bioresonance machine, I do also doing a wobble. Why is that? Because switching on, switching off, or run a frequency pattern with not a single frequency, that will improve the effectiveness inside the body. So the body will better absorb frequencies if it is not only a single frequency. And the other reason is that candidiasis is a pathogen, but the pathogen itself could be a little bit different from the standard frequency that was made in the list of Hilda Clark. So if you click on stop, click on settings, and click on feathering wobble is none. Then you will see the effect. And now I click on override, re-click on the generator, then click on start again. Then you will see that the 150 Hz is a steady single frequency for 3 minutes. And that is also the same for the molecular weight. Yeah, so if you run molecular weight frequencies, yeah, the molecular weight frequencies are important to simulate frequencies in the frequency list, and that will have nearly the same effect as to swallow the amphotericine B. I've seen important effects on patients to improve their health. So if you are not satisfied because it is not only candidiasis, so you can type here all the frequency lists by adding all the other sectors of the database, and then you can see that the list is much longer. For me, that is sometimes positive but sometimes negative, because it looks like a needle in a haystack. Yeah, so the list is very long if you open all the database sections. Yeah, so if you have a specific frequency, let's say for a specific genus of a species, like Trigophyton, here you find the Trigophyton rubrum. Yep, so that's how I treated the patient. Yeah, Trigophyton rubrum here, and also with the DNA frequencies. Strange, but true. I didn't expect that to be effective, but I'm very impressed with the effects. Yeah, so that was about the scalar. Okay, if you want to have another opportunity to do treatment, you can do empty shell presets again. Then you go to plasma if you want to go on the plasma device. And then you can do, let's say, Spooky Plasma Advanced, which I use in the most cases. Then I try programs, Trigophyton rubrum. Yep. And maybe you'll find here also one of the things that is very important for skin mycosis. You find a long list of mycosis infections. Yeah, and it will also include molecular weight sections that will help to start medicine treatment with Spooky. Yeah, or maybe you want to start with the remote and shell empty presets, then remote, and then what I nearly always will use here is universal square H-bomb. Yeah, so I click on square H-bomb and I can see the settings. You see here at the right side, the settings look like the letter H. That's why they gave them the name H-bomb. And it will contain here a frequency set of 16. So the multiplication of the frequency is times 16. And then I see here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 peaks. Yeah, so it was effective only 50% of the time. So it is multiplied by 16 and divided by 2 because it is 50% off. That means that is a frequency of 8. Yeah, and that will help. So you can run the H-bomb on your maximum amplitude. Amplitude is 20 volts. That is the maximum that you can get out of a single generator. Normal settings are mostly 5. Yeah, but you can see here that it is only a spike on 20 volts. It is the top, but the other one is maybe a few volts. I think it is 2 or 3 volts. Yeah, so the average is maybe 2 or 3 volts, while the spikes are 20 volts. I give him harmonic wobble, and then I click on programs. Yeah, and I found this one on nails effectively. Nail. Yep, and there I found here Echinoparvium. Yeah, this one. Hulda Clark and Echinostoma revolutum. Oh no, that is Onnecook snails. No, that's not nails. Yeah, sorry. This one. So, Nagel Trigophyton, which is nagel is nail, nail fungus, and this one, Trigophyton rubrum, is effective, and this one. This one, Onigo, that is nail mycosis. Yeah, so if you do that here in the repeat chain is it will cycle always until you stop it manually, and go to settings, then 2%, 0.02% feathering, and then control, override generator. And then click start. You see it is a cycle of 1.5 hours. Here at the upper line, estimated total runtime is 1 hour 27 minutes. Okay, so I must say that I was impressed. So I did clip a nail from my toe that was infected with the fungus itself. So then even the fungus itself will be treated because the fungus was in the nail. Yeah, so I treat the nail, that is me, and I treat the fungus, that is my infection. And I was amazed to see that if I run it 24/7, after 1 week it started to grow from my nail bed. Yeah, so it was very effective, although I was not in the neighborhood of the generator. Okay, so far this is my live demonstration.